My scholarship life at this elite boarding school twisted quickly the night Preston Whitmore tried to brand me in the basement. I was terrified. They held my arms like I was prey. But the fire alarm went off just in time, thanks to Randy. He stood there, soaked. A savior. My trust in this institution shattered. 6 months later, Preston's name was scrubbed from the donor wall. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Back when I was 13, my parents sent me to Switzerland. I wasn't heartbroken, I was relieved. Their neglect had taught me silence, but that flight felt like a jailbreak. As I stepped into the snowy campus, I thought I'd escaped cruelty. But then I saw the Whitmore crest on the gates, wealth cloaked in tradition. I met Randy that day. His backpack held duct-tape textbooks. He smiled, said, "Guess we're both on borrowed time here." In our first week, Preston singled Randy out in the dining hall, kicking his tray across the floor. I froze. Randy picked up the mess without complaint. Later he whispered, "That's how they test you, humiliate you until you crack." I learned the hierarchy fast: legacy over merit, silence over truth. When Emma asked if I'd seen anything, I lied. Fear wrapped around my throat. I wasn't ready to lose my scholarship. Not yet. It started small. Randy's homework missing, shoes soaked, door lock jammed. The dorm said it was just pranks. I knew better. Preston's smirk each morning confirmed it. Sarah tried to speak up, but her social privileges vanished overnight. I avoided her eyes. When I found a slur carved into Randy's desk, I felt sick. He just wiped it off. Whispered, "Keep your head down." I began writing every act, every name into a notebook hidden beneath my bed. One night, Randy disappeared during curfew. I found him behind the greenhouse, bleeding from his temple. "They made it look like a fall," he said, shaking. "No one reported it. Marcus, once friendly, warned me not to ask questions. You want to graduate, right?" he muttered. Even teachers turned away. I documented everything: dates, bruises, names. My notebook grew heavier. Each page a silent scream. I realized silence wasn't survival, it was complicity. But what could I do alone? The administration praised Preston for leadership after he framed Randy for graffiti. Security found a can in Randy's locker planted. We knew. Sarah cried after the assembly, said she overheard Preston bragging, but she refused to come forward. "He knows things about my family," she whispered. My fingers shook as I copied her quote into my notebook. That night, Randy packed a bag. "Maybe this place wins," he muttered. I promised myself I wouldn't let it. Preston cornered me near the archives, hand grazing my shoulder. "Stay out of it," he said softly, menace laced in his grin. I pulled away, heart racing. That night, someone broke into my dorm drawer. My notebook was gone. I ran to Mr. Petrov, the old custodian. He didn't speak, just handed me an envelope, inside copies of every page I'd written. "Make them count," he said. My hands trembled. I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. We planted a mic in the chapel where Preston held secret meetings. Randy slipped it under a bench. What we recorded chilled me. Preston boasting about cleansing the scholarship kids. I wanted to vomit. Emma digitized the files. Sarah listened in horror. Still she hesitated. "My father's on the board," she said. That night, USP appeared on my pillow, anonymous. It held Preston's full roster of targets. His hate was systematic. This wasn't bullying. It was policy. Preston called a leadership summit in the main hall. We crashed it. I marched up the podium, USP in hand. "Voice steady. Let's play something." The audio echoed his words. Raw and damning. Gasped silence. He lunged, but Randy blocked him. I held firm. Security moved in. Teachers watched, stunned. The headmaster's face drained of color. Preston's composure cracked. My notebook was in plain view now. Proof, courage, justice. I felt something new bloom inside me. Power. The board met behind closed doors. We waited outside. Nerves frayed. Emma held my hand as Sarah paced. Marcus brought us coffee, finally choosing sides. After an hour, they emerged. The headmaster announced Preston's suspension, but it felt muted. "Pending investigation," they said. No apology, no justice yet. That night, someone egged my door. The word "rat" sprayed in red. I didn't cry. I snapped a photo, uploaded it with the audio. My caption: "They taught me silence." I chose roar. I'm mourning. My post had gone viral. Alumni, journalists, and donors flooded the school with outrage. Hashtags trended. Sarah's diplomat parents withdrew funding. The administration panicked. Preston's father arrived in a black suit, furious, flanked by lawyers. But the damage was done. Mr. Petrov nodded as he passed me in the hallway, eyes full of pride. I realized this battle had moved beyond us. We'd lit the match. Now the institution had to face the fire. That night, I couldn't sleep. Randy sat with me in the common room, our backs against vending machines. "You started this," he said. "You made them listen." I shook my head. "We did." He pulled out his sister's photo, still taped to his notebook. "She's gonna see this place change." I looked at mine, coffee stained, battered but whole. Our notebooks had become weapons. I wasn't scared anymore. Not of Preston, not of silence. We were the storm now. Preston vanished from campus the next morning, his dorm emptied. His name scrubbed from rosters, but the administration remained quiet. No press, no statement. We pushed harder. Marcus leaked internal emails showing years of cover-ups. Emma shared her data logs as Sarah joined live interviews. The truth snowballed. Former students came forward. Patterns emerged. It wasn't just us. The school had buried decades of abuse. My voice wasn't alone now. We were a chorus and the world was listening. Just when we thought victory was near, my university acceptances vanished. Emails unread, portals inaccessible. It was sabotage. A call from Emma confirmed it. Preston's father had pulled strings with admissions boards. "He's not done," she whispered. Randy paced, furious. I felt my future slipping. But then Sarah dropped a bomb. She'd found Preston's journal, filled with vile plans. Names, symbols. It wasn't personal anymore. It was a network. A rod, and we weren't finished. Randy hacked into a secured alumni database. What we found stunned us: coded messages, lists of undesirables, expulsion quotas. The Whitmore name popped up again and again. Mr. Petrov confirmed the codes matched janitorial logs, tracking which students were flagged. We sent it all to an independent journalist. Sarah's uncle helped verify the metadata. The story had grown teeth. What began as survival had transformed. We weren't just students anymore. We were witnesses. We were the reckoning. The journalist broke the story with our codenames, the Nine. Preston's family issued a public denial, but more evidence poured in: documents, testimonies, surveillance clips. Sarah's mother, in tears, resigned from the board. The Ministry of Education launched a probe. We wore masks to class. Randy joked, "We're heroes or villains now, depends who you ask." But I felt neither. I felt awake. For once, the system trembled, not us. This time they were scared. Threats flooded in emails. Anonymous calls, even letters slid under our doors, stop or disappear. I slept with a hockey stick under my bed. Randy stopped going anywhere alone. Emma encrypted everything. Still, we pushed. The school offered settlements, so we refused. Marcus built a website, the archives hosting every file. Public access, no paywall, no filter. It exploded online. We weren't scared into silence. We were daring them to try again. Truth had become our only shield and sword. One morning, we found Preston's photo plastered with the word liar across campus. Not our doing. Someone else had joined the resistance. An anonymous teacher began leaking yearbooks, marked with red dots over students who's disappeared. Petrov delivered a note. It was always bigger than one boy. My breath caught. We weren't exposing a bully, we were dismantling a legacy. And legacies don't die quietly. But now, we weren't whispering, we were marching. The school's gala was cancelled, the donors pulled out. International press camped near the gates. Petrov handed me an old photo of him as a student, standing next to a younger Preston's father. I saw it start, he said. Never thought I'd live to see it fall. I scanned the image. The same crust, the same smugness. History had hidden monsters behind manners. But now, faces had names, and names had consequences. Petrov patted my shoulder. You broke the cycle. The ministry declared a formal investigation. Administrators were placed on leave. Audits began. Our phones buzzed non-stop. Press requests, alumni apologies, student support. Sarah spoke at a youth summit. Emma's data went viral. Randy and I were asked to join a task force on school ethics. I wore my battered notebook like a badge. We had cracked open a fortress. And while the dust had settled, the sunlight pouring in was finally blinding. Emma discovered a backup server hidden in the alumni system, unfiltered emails, event logs, even donation bribes. It was the smoking gun. She worked through the night, eyes bloodshot, fingers trembling. Randy stood guard. I documented everything. The files showed cover-ups dating back 20 years. Our jaws dropped, dreading a name, my own father, listed as a donor during my placement. He'd paid to send me away. My anger turned volcanic. This was no longer about school. It was personal. I confronted my father by phone. He sounded drunk. You were always difficult, he slurred. That school straightens girls out. I hung up, trembling. Randy hugged me. Tighty, he doesn't define you, he said. But he had tried. All of them had. I wrote one final entry in my notebook. No one gets to erase me. I scanned it, uploaded it to the archives. Thousands shared it. I wasn't paid in the victim. I was paid in the voice. Petrov organized a hidden gathering, students, ex-staff, whistleblowers. In a candlelit library, they shared stories, exile, silence, resilience. A retired teacher cried, clutching my notebook. We waited decades for someone like you, she whispered. I stood beside Randy, heart pounding. We don't wait anymore. I said that night we drafted a manifesto, reforms, protections, truth. The fire alarm Randy once pulled now stood on the cover. Symbol of resistance, sound of beginning. This wasn't the end. On the day the new education policies launched, I stood at the gate where I'd first arrived. This time, no snow, just spring. Journalists waited. I gave a single sentence: the truth belongs to all of us. Behind me, a mural unveiled, our faces painted above the phrase, "We are not mistakes." Randy smiled beside me. Petrov held back tears. The crest still hung. Up beneath it now a plaque, reformed by the brave, led by the unheard. Emails confirmed Preston had fled the country. No charges yet, but he's been disowned. Photos surfaced him alone in a nightclub. Hollow-eyed, Randy forwarded them to me with one word: karma. I didn't respond, not out of mercy but clarity. My fight wasn't against one boy, it was a war against Erasur. My silence had ended, and in its place, a war so loud, even legacies had to listen. Justice wasn't a verdict, it was a movement. College offers began pouring in, real ones. From real schools, Yale, Stanford, Berkeley. Your story moved us. One letter read, I chose Columbia, close to Randy, far from ghosts. At orientation, a girl whispered, you're Peyton, right? Thank you. I nodded, didn't cry, just smiled, because that's what survival looked like now. Not hiding, not apologizing, just showing up loud and proud. The girl held up her own battered notebook. You gave me this, she said. At the school's reopening, I returned as a guest speaker. The auditorium had new banners: diversity, justice, truth, but I ignored the fanfare. Instead, I walked to the back, to the old desk where Randy once sat. I ran my fingers across its wood, replaced, now polished, no scars. I placed a flower, for the pain, for the fight, for what we'd won. We did this, I whispered, notebook pressed to my chest. And we're not done. Randy launched a nonprofit, Fire Code, training students in whistleblower protection and ethical tech. Emma interned at The Guardian. Marcus built encrypted school forums. Sarah, once silent, now testified before Congress. We weren't broken kids anymore. We were chainmakers. I visited Fire Code's first cohort, 20 teens holding notebooks, eyes lit. I told them, write your truth, share it loud. And when they asked how we started, I pointed to the alarm on the wall. With that, I smiled. Petrov retired quietly. I visited him in a cottage lined with shelves of notebooks, his own, decades old. I always hoped, he said, but never thought I'd see it. We drank tea in silence. Before I left, he handed me one of his. For your archive. He smiled. I placed it beside mine. Generations of resistance. How one story, one chain unbroken. He raised a toast. To the kids who refused silence. I whispered back. To truth, our old group chat still pings updates, articles, dumb memes. But sometimes we get messages from strangers. Your story saved my son. I almost gave up, then I read about you. I screenshot everyone. Not for ego, for remembrance. Because movements aren't won in headlines. They're lived in echoes. And every echo proves we mattered. We left no one behind. That's the real legacy. Not fear, not silence. Just voices shared, heard, and finally believed. On the anniversary of the leak, we gathered back at the school. A small group, older now. We lit candles beneath the mural. Emma played audio from that night. Preston's voice. Now powerless, Sarah read our manifesto aloud. When it ended, we stood in silence. Then I rang the fire alarm, once clear, loud. The sound echoed off the stone. No one ran. No one panicked. It wasn't a warning anymore. It was a promise. I stood at the same gate where it all began. Breathing in mountain air that no longer felt cold. I notebook, frayed and full, felt lighter in my hands. It wasn't just paper. It was proof, a witness, a weapon. Sarah wrapped her arm around my shoulder. You started this, she whispered. I shook my head. We finished it. I felt stronger, louder, unafraid. That school didn't break me. It built the girl who burned it down with truth. I opened Petrov's notebook beside mine, page by page. His handwriting was small, tight, filled with sorrow and hope. He had written about us, called us the ones who warred. Tears welled. Randy peeked over my shoulder. He believed in us before we did, he said. I nodded. Closing both books, now others will too. That moment I realized we weren't relics of a scandal, we were blueprints for justice. And justice wasn't quiet. It was written, spoken, passed on. Preston was officially charged wire fraud, abuse, conspiracy. His father faced tax evasion. Their names became cautionary tales. The school released a public apology. New oversight policies passed. Hetroff's name was added to a new scholarship, the Truth Grant. Randy gave the first speech. We don't forget. He said, we rebuild. The world watched, but more importantly future students watched, and they would know someone once fought for them, and someone always will. At Columbia, I mentor younger girls, first generals scared searching. I hand them blank notebooks. Write everything I say, even the scary parts. Some flinch, others not. All understand my past isn't baggage, it's compass. I don't dwell, I guide. And when people ask what happened, I don't say I survived. I say, we changed everything, because we did with truth. With courage, and with voices no one could ignore, especially not anymore. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe to check out more stories on my channel.